Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and today is 7th of December, 2022. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So as you guys know, a few weeks ago, I was nominated to become a new member of the RocketPool oDAO. Well, the RocketPool oDAO proposal to invite me to join the oDAO here has now been kind of submitted here, or created, I should say. And as I've mentioned before, all of the RPL rewards that I will earn as an oDAO member, if I'm accepted in, will be automatically donated to the Protocol Guild. Now, I've talked about why I'm doing this in the past, and asked for actually tax feedback on this when I originally mentioned it, and people reached out and helped me a lot with that, so thank you to them. But I'm super excited for this. I'm hoping the community will vote me into the oDAO here. Definitely been a huge fan of RocketPool for a very long time now. Just spun up my own mini pool recently, as you guys saw, planning to spin up some more relatively soon, as I did mention the other week there. But yeah, if you are involved with RocketPool at all, and you are part of the DAO, and you want to participate in this vote, I think the voting begins in about a week from now. So this is just the proposal to discuss it among the community as well, which you can get involved with on the RocketPool Discord channel, which is a great community there. Highly recommend joining them. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of give a heads up that that's I guess in motion now, and I'm super excited about that. So thank you to the RocketPool community for this opportunity. I won't let you down if I'm accepted as an oDAO member. Definitely will be taking it extremely seriously, taking the roles that I need to do as an oDAO member very seriously, and hopefully we can kind of continue to create a very decentralized and healthy RocketPool together. Alright, so Julian here from the Geth team says, thanks to Parathosh, the Beverly Hills Verkle testnet is finally operational. So we have a Verkle tree testnet finally operational here, which is very, very cool. I've talked about Verkle trees on the Refuel before. It is part of the Ethereum roadmap, part of the Verge roadmap of Ethereum there, and it's not that doesn't have like too much focus right now. The focus is definitely more on the Surge and the stuff that's part of the merge, such as withdrawals. But the Verge is definitely that next big upgrade that we want to get, we want to implement into the Ethereum network. And there are test nets being spun up, there are dev nets being spun up, there are specs, there's ongoing research, all that good stuff there. As I mentioned before, I wouldn't expect to see this on mainnet until at least 2024. So it's still a little while away, but still good to keep up to date with what people are doing here. And great to see that Parathosh, who was the lead person behind all the shadow forks leading up to the merge, is now behind this codenamed Beverly Hills Verkle testnet. So you can go check this out at beverlyhills.ethdevops.io. Basically, you can kind of see an ETH stats dashboard as well. I mean, it's got links to all the relevant things here. Some general information, general configuration stuff as well. And then, yeah, here's the dashboard basically with the nodes that are connected right now. I think you might be able to participate with this. Participate in this as well. I think you just have to kind of add the network here, and you can run the clients as well. But yeah, all the information's on the website there, and I'll link the tweet in the YouTube description below. As I said, though, still a while out before we see something like this on mainnet, but this is, I guess, the process to get there, right? Testing, dev nets, short-lived test nets, or shadow forks, of course, as we get closer and things like that. But yeah, great to see this from Parathosh today. Alright, so Terrence from the Prylabs team has another thread out today all about EIP 4844 and the latest implementers call talking about this EIP. So this is a summary thread of that, which you can go check out in the YouTube description below. I'll link it there for you. But the TLDR is that obviously progress is being made on 4844 right now. No updates on timeline. I discussed yesterday that I still think that 4844 is probably going to be in the upgrade after withdrawal, so probably later next year if it gets implemented. But there's still obviously a chance that it goes into Shanghai. I think the chance is relatively small, but still a chance there, basically. But I think this is just a great little thread that Terrence put together that I want you guys to read. So of course I'll link it in the YouTube description. But it's funny when I'm looking at things got to do with 4844. I don't know if I'd call it like a rift or a divide in the community right now, because there are two critical things, right? The withdrawals and 4844. But and I've argued this before, I think 4844 is obviously critical for scaling Ethereum, scaling rollups, and making sure that we can get those fees down as much as possible. But no one's clamoring for it right now because the market's quiet. Fees are pretty cheap already on layer 2s, right? And the people that are around right now aren't like fresh new people. They're definitely the people have been around for a while. We have a slow trickle in of brand new people, but there's not that many coming in. Whereas I guess like looking at the withdrawal withdrawal side of things, withdrawals, so when it comes to withdrawals, it's kind of funny because they have been promised as something that would go into the first upgrade after the merge, and we want to stick to that social contract, so that's pretty much locked in because of that. But at the same time, we want withdrawals because we want to make sure that the centralization vectors in staking are able to be rectified through people withdrawing and staking with other providers. We want to make it so that the LSD arbitrage loop can actually be closed. We want to improve not client diversity. We obviously can improve that without withdrawals, but we want to improve geographic diversity of stakers. We want to improve the censorship stuff. Obviously, that staking withdrawals plays into that, and people are clamoring for withdrawals a lot more. I've seen a lot more people ask for withdrawals than 4844. 4844 is obviously needed. It's exciting. It's awesome. It's going to bring great improvements to layer 2s. But in terms of what people are clamoring for, they're not doing that for 4844 right now. They would be if we were back like maybe a year ago, in the bull market where all these altar ones were getting popular because Ethereum layer 1 fees were really high, which were pushing layer 2 fees higher. We would have people clamoring for that. But right now, I'm not seeing that. And honestly, I don't really comment too much on the markets, but if I had to give a timeline of when we would see that kind of demand coming back, it's not going to be for a while, guys. I don't expect next year to be anything crazy. Maybe the ETH price goes up a little bit. Maybe we go back to 2000 or something and stay there. I'm not expecting a new all-time high next year for ETH. I'm not expecting a new bull market next year. I could be totally wrong on that, but honestly, there are two ways the price tends to capitulate, or the market tends to capitulate. There's price-based capitulation, which a lot of people seem to think happened for ETH in June when we went to 880, and then there is time-based capitulation, which takes a lot longer. From when ETH bottomed last cycle to when it actually clearly, started a new bull run was a very long time. ETH bottomed in December of 2018, and then when it started going, back into a bull market, I would probably say, I guess you could say maybe October, November 2020, when ETH got to $300-400 and people were convinced that the bull market was back on for ETH, right? That was a long time. That's like two years, right? More than 2 years, actually. I'm doing my math. I'm doing math wrong there. 2 years, and the reason, 2 years may not sound like a lot, but 2 years is an eternity in crypto. And right now, if you count the bottom as, obviously as June there, then we haven't even done 6 months yet. Or we've basically done 6 months, I should say. We're in December, right? Time's bloody flying. But we've done 6 months since then. So if we want to follow what happened in the past, which I don't really think is something that you should follow religiously, but if you want to follow the general pattern of things, we definitely have quite a while to go before we get out of the rut that we're in right now. So bringing it back to what I was just saying, in terms of urgency, withdrawals definitely. 4844, I think people can wait for if it's not ready. If it's ready, yeah, fine, implement it. And if the core devs feel comfortable doing it as a collective, then do it by all means. But if it's not, and if it's something that people are just trying to push through because they really want it to happen, but it's not like an urgent thing, I don't think it should be pushed through. And I'm not saying it will be. I'm just saying if people are trying to do that because they're obviously, really excited about it and don't want to have to wait all the extra time because it could end up not happening until maybe, Q3, Q4 next year. I understand people wanting to get this in, but I personally only think it should be kind of integrated in the network if it's ready, right? If it's actually ready, if people feel comfortable about implementing it there. But yeah, anyway, just a little bit of a ramble there on that one, but definitely excited, obviously, for both withdrawals and 4844 and other upgrades as well. It's just all about prioritizing which ones go into the network, before others. All right, so Tamaz from the Nethermind team announced today that 10% of Ethereum mainnet nodes are now running Nethermind. So these are mainnet execution layer nodes, and 10% is running Nethermind, which is absolutely awesome. And this is something that I hadn't been paying attention to over the last few weeks, but it seems that Geth's dominance on the execution layer side is coming down finally. So you remember that Geth's dominance was at about 80% at time of the merge, and we're now down to 75.7%. So we're almost 5% down from the peak there, with other clients growing nice and steadily. So we have Aragon, Nethermind, and Besu taking up the vast majority of the remaining share there from Geth. And as Thomas mentioned, Nethermind is about 10% now. As you can see here, and it seems to be second. I'm just kind of looking at ethernodes.org here, and I'm getting a different percentage to him. He must have done some filters on this, I think. Yeah, maybe filter unsynced nodes. Yes. Okay. So if you filter by unsynced nodes, if you don't include unsynced nodes, which I don't think you should include unsynced nodes, because if you're not synced, I mean, technically they're not really part of the network, right? Then Nethermind obviously quite high here, almost 11%, with Geth under 75%. So either way you slice it, Geth's dominance is coming down, which is what we want to see, because client diversity obviously is extremely important. And you can see on clientdiversity.org what the current picture looks like. On the consensus layer side, we are very diverse right now. Nimbus could use some more love, and same with Lodestar, and Prism and Lighthouse maybe can lose a little bit more market share, but this is looking so much better than it did just back at the beginning of the year, or at least Q2ish, when Superfizz did that big push, or led that big push into getting people to switch clients away from Prism, who was obviously very dominant at the time. So consensus layer looks amazing, execution layer looking better, right? As I said, Geth was at about 80%, or I think it went up to even 82%. But it's coming down, which is awesome. It means that people are trusting that these other clients are reliable, that they're not going to screw them over, because obviously in a post-merge world, to run a full Ethereum node, you need to run both the consensus and execution layer client. And if you're a solo staker, or if you're a validator in general, and you're running one of those full nodes, you want the execution layer side to be just as reliable as the consensus layer side, and that seems to be the case right now. So congrats to Nethermind on the market share growth here. But also great to see Aragon and Besu continue to grow as well. I'm hoping to see Geth below 50%, relatively soon. Like I tried to actually set up Nethermind with my RocketPool mini pool. I'm on Geth right now. I know it's sacrilege, right? I should be on a minority client, but I tried with Nethermind, and for some reason it wasn't syncing. It might have been a bug or something, and I haven't tried since. Maybe I'll try and switch it over to Nethermind instead of Geth, because I'm using Lighthouse on the consensus layer side. I know I should have probably used Teku and Nimbus, but I think on the execution layer side, I should definitely get that rectified sooner rather than later. But I could probably just change, as far as I know, I could change it so I can sync Nethermind as my fallback client, and then kind of switch the clients around so that it's using Nethermind as my main client and Geth as my fallback client. I'll get around to that. But yeah, I just wanted to point out the diversity on the execution layer side is improving here. And also nodewatch.io is the website that monitors the consensus layer nodes. Not much has changed here. Geography still looks quite healthy in terms of where these consensus layer nodes are positioned, or are in the world. You can see the United States is quite, it's number one, but it's not like that dominant, right? It's under 40% dominance. Germany's coming in second at about 15%, and then Finland at 7%, which is funny because I never would have expected Finland to be third place here. And then you can go down the list as well. I'm not going to read them all out. But anyway, I'll link all these websites that I've just gone through in the YouTube description. You can check them out for yourself. But great to see the client diversity on the execution layer side coming together here. All right, so speaking of the protocol guild before, when I was talking about the RocketPool oDAO stuff, we have a little tweet here from them today where they said, To date, our 128 members have collectively contributed 375 years of effort towards maintaining and evolving the Ethereum protocol. And then you can learn more by checking out this blog post. That's actually a crazy stat. And for those of you who don't know what the Protocol Guild is, it's a 128 member organization, or I guess like you could call it a union, where the Protocol Guild is raising money from anyone that will give it in the Ethereum ecosystem in order to vest it out to core devs over time, or core devs and researchers. So 128 of them right now, and you can learn more about this here in this docs website, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But in terms of places where I want to send money to, or where you can send money to and be assured that it's actually going to the right people in the public goods ecosystem, and especially obviously on the Ethereum core dev side, the Protocol Guild is at the top of the list. There is nothing else there that even comes close to it in terms of just focusing on the core development side. Obviously, we have Gitcoin and we have a bunch of other initiatives as well, but they're broader. They don't just focus on one thing. Whereas the Protocol Guild's mandate is to focus on the people that are building the Ethereum core protocol, from developers to researchers, and making sure that they're rewarded for their work. And as I've mentioned, on the refuel before, they started off with a pilot of $10 million, and they want to keep growing that as time goes on, and hopefully get to billions of dollars vesting out over time to these core contributors. And the thing is about this is that it's 128 members right now. It started off at 119, so it's going to actually keep growing over time. So obviously, because it keeps growing, if the amount in the protocol guild stays the same, well, then everyone's share goes down. So we definitely want to keep the members growing, but also keep the money growing. And that works as a nice feedback loop, because the more money the protocol guild has, the more people will be incentivized to, I guess, like participate in core protocol development to maybe get a slice of that. And more people can contribute as well, because they have a source of funding. That's actually been, I mean, not so much these days, but traditionally for most of Ethereum's life, funding of the Ethereum core development, I guess, infrastructure, or I should say clients, has been a bit of hit and miss, right? Touch and go until very recently. And now that we have so many client teams working on these sorts of stuff, we definitely want to be able to fund them and keep them rewarded and keep them going with funding. And that's what the Protocol Guild does. So I'll link this in the YouTube description. You can go check it out for yourself. All right, so the Privacy and Scaling Explorations group at the Ethereum Foundation here put out a tweet today saying, want to try building with anon identities and groups. The new Semaphore boilerplate has components for a web app where users create IDs and leave feedback. No wallet required. Use it as a template to make your own app or try the demo at this website. Yeah, so this is obviously something for the developers out there that you can check out. There's a live demo, as I mentioned, as well as a GitHub repository that you can go check out. I'll link this in the YouTube description below. And there's also actually a Discord channel as well that you can join. All right, so a big announcement out of the Optimism ecosystem today. So they announced retroactive public goods funding round 2, and they did kind of said that in February 2023, 10 million OP tokens will be distributed to the people and projects powering the public goods that make Optimism possible. So you guys will know that Optimism has been doing this retroactive public goods funding. And they've been doing it by using the revenue that they generated with their sequencer, because there's only just one sequencer right now, sequencing transactions. And that was making, tens of thousands of dollars, I think, in profit per day, I believe, and that was being donated. And then also, obviously, they have their OP token now, and they have a treasury full of these OP tokens. So they're going to be donating or distributing 10 million OP, which is around $10 million as part of this funding round here. And this will also be the initial release of the Citizens House, the one person, one vote counterpart to the Token House in the Optimism Collective, which is their governance structure here. And you can go read the rest of the thread for a bit more details on this, but great to see that this is coming so soon. Feb 2023 is not that far away, right? It's about 2-3 months from here, which is great to see. And it's also great to see that they're not just kind of going with the funding with the OP tokens, but they're also introducing the Citizens House here, because I've gone on record before on the Refuel by saying that I think it's really cool that Optimism is really open to experimenting with DAOs and with governance, and not just doing typical token holder governance. You hold some OP tokens and that determines your weight in voting on things. They're also going with this kind of Citizens House, which is the one person, one vote counterpart to the Token House, which basically works as a way to balance out things. And you can go check out their documentation for their full, I guess, breakdown of how their governance is supposed to work. But I think in the Optimism ecosystem, this is probably what excites me most. Like, if I had to rank them, obviously, I'm really excited about the roll-up architecture that they're building, stuff like Bedrock that's coming relatively soon. I actually saw another tweet thread today saying that Bedrock is going to be on testnet soon. So hopefully it'll be on mainnet soon after that. But in terms of where Optimism seems to be innovating and focusing on things in a much, I guess, like different way than we're used to, is definitely on the governance side of things, which I'm super excited to continue to see play out. I'm not an active governance participant myself. I have delegated my tokens to Polynar so that, because I believe Polynar is a good representative of the ecosystem and has been paying attention to Optimism quite closely there. But generally, I just think it's a really great approach. It's something that we haven't really seen before, and you can trust that the Optimism team has the Ethereum ecosystem's best, I guess, intentions at heart, because Optimism as a team, the core team, has been around for a very long time now, and they basically started off in Plasma Land, migrated to optimistic rollups, and have been working on that ever since. So yeah, I'm excited to see them continue to experiment with this. But as I said, this thread will be linked in the YouTube description below for you to check out. All right, so something I came across today called RWA.xyz was introduced. Now, what is this? It's an analytics tool on real-world assets. And they say here, in order for DeFi to fulfill its original mission of building a transparent, efficient financial system, real-world assets must be brought on-chain. And then they've got a thread about this here, as well as their website, which you can go check out. I clicked on their Twitter profile instead of their website there. Yeah, here's the website, RWA.xyz. You can go check this out. Basically, analytics on real-world assets is what they're trying to do. I don't think this is a free tool. I think you got to enter your email and then you'll go to the dashboard. I'm not going to bring this up right now, but you can see a screenshot of the dashboard here of what it looks like. So basically what they want to do is they want to enable as much transparency into these real-world kind of off-chain assets as we have for on-chain assets. Now, as you guys will know, there's been I guess a bunch of projects working around this. There's Maker's making a lot of moves into doing real-world assets, off-chain collateral, all that good stuff there. There's been another protocol called Goldfinch that's been doing stuff around this, and also one that's been in the news recently, and one that I'm an angel investor in, Maple Finance. And unfortunately, they've been in the news for the wrong reasons, where one of their borrowers actually defaulted on that debt because all of their money, or most of their money, was stuck on FTX, and obviously no one has their money from FTX yet. So the people that had money in there, the users that had money in there, lost the money because Maple Finance is an under-collateralized lending protocol, and basically it relied on trust and reputation rather than over-collateralization, and we saw the dark side of that. Right, where if a borrower can't pay, well, there's not really much you can do about it in that case, right? Because there's no collateral that you can take. There's no collateral that can make it whole, right? There is a portion that you can probably take, but in terms of like making it whole, like what Maker does, for example, when it liquidates a position, you can't do that because it's not over collateralized. So something like RWA.xyz with their analytics tool could give you better, I guess, visibility into things, and maybe you see this and you think to yourself, well, okay, it's not worth the risk here. I'm not going to put my money into this protocol because they've got this real world asset or this real world borrower or lender that doesn't seem, very good. I'm just going to avoid this thing. So I love this. I love bringing more transparency to things that are typically opaque. So you should definitely go check out the website for yourself and the thread where they dive a bit deeper into things here. But great to see this, and I'll be keeping an eye on this as it develops. All right, so I think last week or the week before, there was a bunch of drama around MetaMask and Infura and their data retention / privacy policy. Well, they put out a blog post today, or Consensus put out a blog post today titled "A Consensus Data Retention Update," and MetaMask did a thread on this. Look, this is good. It's not great. I mean, I do like that they're actually addressing this, but they're sticking with this, I guess, narrative that they need to collect an IP address in order to relay a transaction, which from my understanding, they don't need to do that. And people have called this out saying that they don't need to do that. But I think that they're doing it not so much for relaying the transaction, but they say they're doing it for load balancing and DDoS protection, which makes more sense because if you're trying to protect against DDoS and trying to do load balancing, then you need to know where the traffic is coming from, and you do that via an IP address, obviously. So you need to be sending that IP address with the transaction to make sure that you're not getting hit multiple times by that, and that by that IP address, and that person is not trying to basically attack you or DDoS you, which I guess does make sense. Because, for example, if you were to run your own full node and you would offer it to the world as an RPC for them to use, and then you have no load balancing and you have no DDoS protection on it, it'd be very easy for someone to just bring it down, basically, and send it offline, because they're just going to overload your infrastructure with all these requests if you were like ignoring their IP address and not filtering through it. So these things have to be taken into account. Now, that's not to say that you can't run your own full node yourself and, have your RPC only available to you and not to anyone else. You can for sure do that. And that's the way that I've done it. And that's the way many people have done it since, I guess, like Infura and Alchemy and these other centralized RPCs have started doing more data collection. But as I said, like, I don't think MetaMask needs to collect it and Infura needs to collect it to relay their transaction itself. But they do need to collect it if they want to make sure that they're protected against DDoS attacks, which makes sense, I guess. But anyway, great to see this update from them. You can read the full update in the blog post here, but there's also that thread from MetaMask that I will link in the YouTube description below for you as well. But yeah, I've got a last few minutes here, so I wanted to mention a couple of things just as reminders for you guys. So first reminder is that the AMA series is back. I talked about this on Monday. You can ask questions in the AMA series channel on the Discord server. And I'll be answering those on Saturday, and then the video will go out Saturday morning US time, Saturday late night Australian time, and for Europe it would be afternoon, I believe, and for Asia it would be pretty late in the evening as well. So yeah, definitely go ask questions there. And I'm actually going to go back and look at some of the questions that were asked when I stopped doing the AMAs, because there was a bunch in there as well, and try to answer those as long as they're still relevant. But the questions that have been asked so far have got my brain spinning already. I'm super excited to answer those. But yeah, go do that. The second thing I wanted to talk about was, not so much like on the market side of things, but more on the, I guess, people looking at things and being like, oh, wow, we still have, so much contagion left to go with the FTX collapse. And I've talked about this before, but I want to briefly just touch on it again. When it comes to the contagion stuff, guys, like I feel like we're still going to be hearing about stuff from the FTX collapse for potentially years to come. So anytime you hear people talking about and saying, there's more contagion to come, the market's going to nuke, everything's going to zero, blah, 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 whatever, just remember that the contagion stuff is going to keep happening for a while, but it has diminishing returns because the big players, most of them have pretty much already blown up. The biggest are ones that we know of, and the ones that haven't blown up but are like, on a razor's edge, basically, we know about them, like Genesis, for example. And there's rumors about Silvergate, which is like a crypto bank. I haven't really seen much on that yet, so I can't really comment on it, but I there are rumors around it because their stock price keeps falling and people are saying they're insolvent. I don't know. I don't think that's the case, to be honest, but as I said, I don't know much about them, so I can't really comment too much on that. But when you take it all together and think about what people are saying and what the returns are going to be like going forward, I think any of the contagion that we see is going to have definite diminished returns. The market is already so exhausted from selling. Doesn't mean we can't go lower, of course, but I think going forward, it kind of seems like we're just going to range for a while, and that's going to piss a lot of people off because it's boring. Sideways movement is always boring. It doesn't matter if it happens in bull markets or bear markets. People get frustrated. I remember in 2017 when ETH was going sideways around $300 for what felt like forever, and then it shot up to 1,400. But during that $300 sideways movement, it was quite a boring time in Ethereum, in kind of like the ETH marketplace. So that's kind of what crypto is right now. It's just sideways movement, but this is where the opportunities lie, as I always say. So stick around, learn a thing or two, keep watching the refuel if you enjoy it and listening to it if you enjoy it. But on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.